Joining us today on Coder Conversations is author Sheri Koones. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on tonight. We appreciate you.
Well,
Um,
thank you. Very
I'm your host.
nice.
I'm your host, Kevin.
And I'm your co host, Brian.
So yeah, Sherry, I know you do a ton of different things, but right now I know you're doing a lot of work in the field of authoring books. So can you tell us a bit about your latest book? What is it entitled and what is it about?
Okay. ADUs, the perfect housing solution. A lot of people are not familiar with it yet. It's accessory dwelling units, which people build on their property and their legal residences. And either they can be separate residences, or they could be attached to the house, or they can be in on top of a garage or instead of the garage. And with today's housing shortage, which is a major problem, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I have a young children, and it's hard for young adult children, and it's hard for them to find housing that they can afford. And these ADUs are great for aging parents or your adult children, or just as a means for making additional money. So, and using that for your retirement. So ADUs are really becoming important around the country, and a lot of people still don't know about them. In the state of California, they made it universally that you could have ADUs, but in a lot of the other states, you can't unless they forbid them for whatever reason.
Oh
Where
wow.
do you?
So there's some pushback in certain
Yeah,
states.
yes. Where are you guys?
So I'm in New York, Long Island.
And I'm in
Uh huh.
Frisco, Texas.
Oh my goodness! So you cover the whole country.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
And where are you coming
I'm
to
in
us from
Connecticut.
tonight?
I'm in
Oh,
Connecticut.
okay. I
Yeah,
I was
but
I
in
was
the
born in Connecticut.
you are, where were you born?
Bridgeport.
Oh, terrific.
Yeah.
I love New England. I think that New England is one. I've traveled all over the country. I think New England is one of the most beautiful parts of the country.
It really
Uh,
is.
Yeah. But if you live in San Francisco, then I'm sure that you have seen ADUs because they are very, very common in California. And as I said, California has mandated that almost anybody could have an ADU.
Oh, I'm actually in Frisco, Texas.
Oh, Frisco, I'm
Oh, you thought
sorry.
Frisco? Yeah,
Okay. Well, you know what?
yeah.
There are APUs in Texas as well. Texas is one of the states that allows them.
Oh, nice.
So
So,
like for the audience who may not
yeah.
be like familiar, they probably heard of tiny homes, but they don't know how they're different from ADUs. Do
Mhm.
you mind explaining
Right.
that?
Sure. Tiny homes are very small in structure, but they are not legal residences. So they're not connected to the grid. They have to get permission to put them in areas. In a lot of areas, um, they don't allow tiny homes. So I think there's a lot of confusion about that. But ADUs are legal residences, and you can rent them out, and you have to supply electricity to them, and sometimes they have solar panels and so forth. Tiny homes they're very difficult to place. Like in a lot of metropolitan areas, they don't allow them. There was an article recently in the New York Times that said one of the biggest problems with ADUs is that nobody wants them on their property.
Why do you think
So
that is?
I don't know. I think because they're mobile and they might move around and they're not permanent residences. I don't know, but I know that a lot of locations don't allow them.
Okay, so
So
you said they're
um,
allowed in New York?
some places in New York. Um, and they're allowed in Connecticut. And I have actually spoken at the libraries and in various location realtors in Connecticut. And excuse me, actually, they're encouraging people to build ADUs because there's such a shortage of housing. And the nice thing about ADUs is that they're not when there's a shortage, they're not building big apartment houses, which change the feeling of a suburban area. These ADUs are usually behind the house, and you wouldn't even know it was there, unless. you knew or you were there. So,
And can
so
these be rented out to strangers, or does it have to be family that's living in the unit?
no, they can be rented out. There's different laws in different places. Like in some areas, you can rent out the main house and the ADU. In some cases, the owner has to live in either the ADU or the house, and that's been the case too. Sometimes where homeowners have lived in the ADU and they rent out the house to make more money. So, it really depends on the area. And in most locations, you can only have one ADU. In some locations, you can have more than one. Like in California, I was speaking to a friend in California, and she said people are putting up several. So
So
And
like in
that's
it's
legal in
kind of
California to do that?
out of it's out of control out there. So, but I'm a real proponent of it because I live in Greenwich where there's a lot of large oversized buildings being put up, and it really has changed the nature of this town. And there's a lot of people that live here, like kids that grow up in Greenwich, and they can't afford to buy a house and stay here. So if there were ADUs, people could just rent those and
Yeah.
stay there.
like in terms of go ahead,
And
go ahead. Didn't mean to cut you off.
in my book, I have such beautiful ones that people would love to live in, and there are some ADUs where families live there with
Oh, wow.
kids. So
So
yeah, it's a really nice method. Depending on the location and the size of the house, is how big the ADU can
so
be.
like in terms of square footage, this is obviously a generalized question. Like what kind of ranges are
Yeah.
we expecting? And also in terms of prices, obviously you can get as nice as you want, but like
But
just in general.
well, some locations they'll only allow 600, and then there are places where they're 1,200. But in my book, there's a house that's about 300 square feet, and it is so cute. There's a bedroom, there's a bathroom, there's a nice kitchen area. So people do really great things with space, and it's a matter of having a good architect and really using the space really
And
well.
so would you say they're similar to the layouts of tiny homes?
Um, Most of the time, tiny homes are really tiny, and I don't. um, they can be. It's a matter of how you use your space. you know Most, if you looked at my book, you can look at online, just the cover, and you can see most of the houses are really the feeling of a bigger house. They're just
Okay.
smaller, and the spaces, I looked at about 300 ADUs before I chose the 25 in the book, and I looked for ADUs that were really attractive and where they used the space really well.
So have you actually seen a trend of maybe like younger people starting to buy these since they can't afford the larger homes?
Definitely. I actually have one in my book where there was a young guy, he was a tech guy who was working at home. He bought an inexpensive house with enough property so he could build an ADU. And he renovated his house, which was not that big, and he built the ADU, and now that's his income,
Oh,
is
wow.
the ADU. Yeah. So, yeah, and there's a lot of young people that are doing this. I had another family, their daughter was older and she wanted a place to live, and the options around town were very, very expensive. And so they built her an ADU on their property. And so this way she has her privacy, but,
Yeah.
she lives in an affordable housing. So, yeah, there's a lot of young people are into this. I have another young couple. Their grandmother was, when her husband died, she was going from grandchild to grandchild, and finally this guy was an architect, and he converted his garage into an ADU, and he made it so that it was accessible, so that if his grandmother was no longer there, it would be great for somebody
Oh, wow.
else to rent.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so
So where you are, you said
there's a
you're
lot of
in Greenwich, correct?
I
What
am.
is the
Yeah.
average house going for on the market right now? Is it like 1,000,000 or up?
More. I mean, it's hard to find anything for less than 1.5 million.
Wow.
Wow.
I mean, And the, uh, Greenwich is filled with mega mansions. As a matter of fact, I'm living in a rented a townhouse, and my owner just called to say that she wanted me to vacate because she's going to
Wow.
sell it.
Oh,
And
wow.
I'm looking and I'm looking at rentals, and rentals in Greenwich are, I looked at two that were so terrible, and they, one was
Wow.
4,900 and the other was 5,800. And
Wow.
if they let me live in these for free, I wouldn't live there. So they were horrible. And a nice rental could go anywhere from, from six to $7,000. And I'm having a tough time because I can't spend that much money on a
Is it
rental.
because you're
So
so close to New York City that the price?
yeah, well, what happened is during COVID, a lot of people left Manhattan and they wanted to be close to Manhattan for their jobs or whatever. And a lot of people came to Greenwich because Greenwich is like the first
It's like
town
one stop,
that's in
right?
Connecticut.
Like one stop away from
Right,
Manhattan?
right, right. Well, it's one stop away from New York, Portchester and Westchester. So, and it's a beautiful town. I mean, I think I love Greenwich, and it has probably one of the best school systems in the country. But people that have been living here, I've been living here for a long time, and it's making it, on for people that are trying to move around. It's almost unreasonable. I'm actually looking at other towns because Greenwich has become so realistic
Yeah.
in terms of the
Like
cost.
in terms of ADUs, are there some options that you're looking at, and what is around the price range that you can pay in the area where you're at if they're available?
Oh, if I could find some place for even $5,000, which is a lot of money, but there's very little at that price range. And I probably will have to go to another area of, either Westchester or further up in Connecticut. So the housing market is, in my opinion, one of the biggest concerns that we have in this
Yeah.
country. I think probably in the Midwest, it might be easier. You might be able to pay less for a housing, but in New England and in a lot of areas of the country, in California, I mean, California has a real homeless problem because there's such a shortage of housing. And there's very few people in the country that are taking
Right.
care of this.
Yeah.
I attended a conference, affordable housing conference I spoke at a few years ago in Spokane, Washington, and they're one of the areas in the country that are conscious of the problem, and they are trying to build affordable housing and for people that need
Right.
space.
Yeah, it's amazing just how quickly
So
the prices of housing is shooting up. I don't know who other than like a businessman or a doctor can afford even basic houses now.
Yeah.
I know. I know. When I graduated from college, I got an apartment in the city and it was no problem. It was like the rule of thumb was that you spend one week of your salary for rent.
Okay.
And now I called somebody, I called a friend to find out about a two-bedroom apartment in Manhattan, and she said it was anywhere from six to nine
Wow.
thousand dollars a month. And I don't know any young people that are right out of college that could afford that.
Yeah.
It's just it's making it impossible. It's making it just that, wealthy people and, are able to live
It's
in the city.
unfortunate.
So,
Mhm.
yeah, I think it is. I think, the opportunities for people are just way more limited.
And they closed down just in terms of music. I'm a drummer. I remember they closed down CBGB's in Manhattan
Mhm.
a while
Right.
ago. Yeah.
Why did they do
I
that?
think whoever owned it wanted to bring probably, higher end clientele. They didn't want, a punk
Hmm.
rock music venue in their neighborhood, or
Right.
who knows what it is. I mean,
Wow.
I saw one show there before they closed, uh,
Hmm.
back when I was in high school, I think.
Yeah, it's
Hmm.
crazy.
Yeah.
Like when my parents bought their house, it was like 80,000, 90,000. So like what you're paying in 1 or 2 years, you could that could have paid off the whole house. And
I know, I know. And I feel badly spending this much money on rent. It's just of getting a mortgage for a house today, and the houses in this area are just way, way too expensive. So, it forces you to rent, and you're right, it's a waste of money because you'll never see
Yeah.
that money
Yeah.
again. And yeah, I mean, houses used to be way, way less expensive, and everything has gone up though. Food has gone up, the rents have gone up, gasoline's gone up. I feel bad for people that are right out of school and just really hurting and having a difficult time just, trying to
Yeah, I
survive.
know my parents, the home they had in Bridgeport, Connecticut, I think they bought it for
Hmm.
100,000. You know,
Hmm. Yeah.
like,
And it was a
Yeah.
nice
it was
house, right?
cozy. Yeah. Nice, pretty nice
Yeah.
neighborhood
Yeah.
right near Stratford,
Yeah.
by,
Well, I'm
by
gonna,
Vazzi's. I don't know if you know
yeah.
that pizza place, Vazzi's.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very nice. Very nice. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna really age myself. My parents bought my house when I was born for
Wow.
$17,000. And I
Wow.
asked them, how come we don't have a fireplace like the people next door? And they said, because that house was selling for 19,000
Wow.
and we just didn't have the money.
Wow.
And now that house is probably
Right.
700,000 or 800,000.
Yes, like the
So
price of a like lower end car or motorcycle. Like
yeah. I know. I know. You can't even buy a refrigerator for that in some
No, so
cases.
that's really
So yeah.
important. These ADUs that you're talking
Yeah.
about in your books, I think it's
Mhm.
super
Yeah.
relevant to our
Mhm.
economic situation and all that.
Yeah. When I years ago I renovated a house, and basically I built the house, and I had to learn everything I needed to learn about housing, and so I wrote my first book, which was from sandcastles to dream houses. That was 12 books back,
Hmm.
and um, and I learned everything I needed to learn about housing. But over time, I started to realize that people could build houses that were much more sustainable and low energy. I mean, there are ways now to build a house even before you put in solar panels that are much more efficient. Where you have a good insulation, and where you have good um, uh, lighting coming in, and a lot of things that you would need so you can use less electricity. And as I've been writing, I've become more and more interested in sustainable, efficient building. And so all of my books have really been on that. I wrote a book before this which was called Bigger Than Tiny, Smaller Than Average. So
Nice title.
so you mentioned a few of
yeah.
these sustainable elements like solar panels, natural lighting. What are some of the other
Hmm.
techniques they're using to
Good
good
insulation,
Ah, yeah.
building a house with good windows, and having bigger windows on the south side so that you get more light, and and less on the north side, where it's going to be darker, and also where you don't want to get, the light, you want to keep it from losing energy. So and there's a lot of materials today that are really excellent for making the house sustainable. And I've recently been doing some research on fire safety, and there's a lot of really great things today after the fires that have been occurring around the country, which is very, very scary. I've always been a proponent of sprinkler systems. I think all these people are dying in these buildings in fire, and I think that we should be spending more money on protecting people from
Yeah.
fire than putting in putting in extra fireplaces or granite countertops.
Right.
So, um, and there's some really great new things. One thing that I found that I thought was really great is most sprinkler systems are inside the house, but there's also sprinkler systems that you could put on the exterior
Mm.
of the house. So if there's
Oh,
fire
wow.
outside, these sprinkler systems can put out the fire before they even
That's
come close
amazing.
to the house. Yeah, so that's
Hmm.
really cool. And I guess when I was around my third or fourth book, I decided because I wasn't a well-known person, I needed to find somebody that was an advocate for sustainability, that was somebody famous. And I decided that Robert Redford was the most um, environmentally conscious human being. And it took me a long time, but I got him to write the foreword for one of my books, and he was the loveliest gentleman in the world. And he ended up writing the forwards for three
Oh,
additional
wow.
books.
How did you end up
And
meeting him?
so I called his agent and to try to get her to have him write it forward, and she, for whatever reason, said, he said no, and I said, who said no? And then I finally called his channel, and the channel that was doing a lot of his work, and they said, oh, my boss is really friendly with him. And so she said, could you just send me a proposal? And I did, and I sent it to her, and I got a call back from from somebody that worked with him, and she said, Bob loves what you're doing, and he agreed to do the forward. And then I called when he was speaking at the New York Times building. And so I called his agent and said, I would really like to meet him and show him the cover for the new book so that he could approve it because his name's going to be on it. And she said, okay. And she got me tickets to see him. And then I went into the green room, and he is the loveliest, loveliest man. He asked me about my background, how I got to be writing about housing, and he signed a book for me, and we took a picture together, and which is on my website, sherikoones.com. And he was just a really lovely man. I was very, very sad when he passed
Sounds like he
away.
was very humble.
Oh, he was so humble. He had everybody call him Bob, and he spoke. I think his kids complained because he spoke to waiters, he spoke to everybody, and even like I was not a celebrity to him, and he wanted to know everything about how I started writing, and where I lived and my background. He was just a lovely, lovely man, and yes, he was incredibly humble.
Yeah.
And I know there's some things on the internet about where he's buried and his funeral, but he was buried by him with just his immediate family. He didn't want it to be like, a
Like a
celebrity circus.
circus.
So,
Yeah.
So yeah,
yeah.
you've written
So,
a lot of books about ADUs, and I'm sure it spanned over many years. So have you noticed like any trends that once you started, it's a lot different now? Like anything has anything changed over
well,
time?
you know what? I'm very in connection with architects that are doing really great work. The architects that I've met over the years, I've written 12 books, and over the years, the architects that I have worked with have all been like a step ahead of other architects,
Yeah.
around, and they have really, I have learned so much about sustainable aspects of building. And over the years, I have met people that have just found so many great ways to build houses that were not only beautiful but sustainable, and energy efficient and so forth. So yes, there's been a real growth in that. But there's still a lot of people that just homeowners that come and they just want, granite countertops. They don't care about sustainability or energy efficiency. Just make it beautiful. Um, and I think
Interesting.
I think there's a lot of architects around that are being better educated in school about efficiency, and I think that's a really great thing because I concern myself with global warming and the future of this planet.
Like what are some of the more interesting or unique things that you've seen architects do with these ADUs, or what are some interesting things people have requested in theirs?
Uh-huh. Well, people want multi-purpose rooms. So I've seen people, a lot of times the houses that I've worked with are smaller. So they have had to use the space really, really well. And so one of the houses that I really love that was built by a company in Lindell Cedar Homes out in California, up in Washington State. They they made an office space in the hallway of of one of the hallways, and it worked really well. It gave people's, a place to work, and it didn't require an extra room. I also had an architect who built he he didn't want to have a lot of hallways, because hallways are space that you have to heat and light, and they're not always used.
Right, they're not
So,
really being used in
so
a lot of cases.
yeah, so he built a bookshelf that was open on both sides, and it kind of split up the division of the room so that there was a space to go into the private area.
Hmm.
So um, people come up with very creative ways. One of the houses that I wrote about was a very small house, and the owner of the house designed pocketbooks. And he said he had his house designed like a pocketbook, where in a pocketbook, every little space is well used. You have a pocket for, different things. And he built his house that way. And there was a landing at the top of his steps. And he made a little office space in that area, above the steps. And, he had outlets and everything put in. So um, people used a lot of just creative ways, with skylights to add light where there might not be light, in ADUs where it was going to be close to the house and people wanted privacy, so they would put the windows on the other side away from
Ah,
where the house was. So
Hmm.
they
that's
had
smart.
privacy. So
Yeah.
yeah, so there were a lot of ways that people designed the houses so that, they met the needs of both the homeowner and the people in the
Okay.
ADU. Where do you guys live?
So I'm
I
in
do.
Long Island.
Uh-huh. Are you in a
I'm in an
house?
apartment.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I'm in
Okay. Is
oh,
it
go ahead, go
still
ahead.
is it still reasonable to live in an apartment in Long Island?
Not really. It's pretty expensive.
It is,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's pretty expensive.
And how about you in
Yeah, I'm in
Texas?
Frisco, currently renting a house, paying around 2,400. So I mean, it's not bad compared to those prices I'm hearing from you.
Do you have a
No
family?
family.
Oh, it's just you and a 2,400? That sounds good.
Yeah,
Yes.
where I'm at, it's about 2,200 for a one bedroom. So Long Island is
Wow.
pretty ridiculous. Yeah.
Right. I know. Yeah. I grew up in Queens,
Ah,
which
so did
was
my
very
mom. My
close to
mom grew
Long Island.
up in Richmond Hill, and I
Oh,
have an
really?
aunt that lives in
Okay.
Rockaway Beach.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I didn't really like growing up in Queens. I have to say, the transportation to the city was really hard. I always worked in the city, and oh my God, I had to take a bus and two
Wow.
buses and a train to get
What
home. And
part of Queens were you in?
I was in a place called Hollis Hills. So, but it was like near Union Turnpike. I don't know if you know what that is,
Union Turnpike.
but
No, I'm
yeah,
not sure.
Union Turnpike and Hollis. Yeah, but it was a very nice neighborhood to grow up in. But it was just I'm a city person, so it was always very difficult for me to, get into the city. It was like I worked, and I went to Columbia graduate school at night. So I was coming home late at night, and taking trains from up in Harlem was like a 2-hour
Wow.
trip to get home. And then I'd go to sleep and get up very, very soon to go
Yeah.
back to work.
Feels kind of like a
Yeah.
hamster wheel. You
So
just work, sleep, work,
yeah.
sleep.
Work, sleep, works.
But you can do that when you're young. Do you guys have other jobs?
Yeah, I'm a software engineer.
and
Oh,
and
wow.
I teach drums.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. Do you teach in a school or?
No, it's my own business.
Uh-huh. Oh, good for you. Do you have lots of students?
At the moment, I only have a few.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the economy
Okay.
isn't the best right now, I feel like. So,
Mhm.
drums or musical instruments, they're a hobby for most people.
Yeah.
Right.
So Yeah.
Do you ever get gigs playing with
Yeah, I
bands?
used to live in LA and I was a session musician, a
Mhm.
session drummer in Los
Mhm.
Angeles I was
Right.
out there for about 10 years. But
Uh-huh.
basically, I've mentioned this on the show before. Ageism hit me very early. I turned 30, and then all of a sudden, all of the gigs that I was getting, they all, you know, got sidelined.
They thought you were
They
too
yeah, at
old?
30 because I got all my gigs from Craigslist, right? I mean, I never played for,
Wow.
like, Mariah Carey or Phil Collins or, anyone, like,
Mhm.
huge like that. That would've been amazing. But so I would get all my,
Mhm.
kinda indie gigs off of, Craigslist, and I don't know. It was okay for a while, and I hit 30, and I started
Mhm.
noticing in these posts, people were saying, "Oh, no one over 25 or no one over 27. We're gonna be checking IDs at the door," stuff like that. So I was just like, "The hell with
Wow.
this." So
That's
I moved back
terrible.
east. I moved back to New York. That's where
Uh-huh.
my family's at
Mhm.
mostly.
Mhm.
And so, it's okay. But yeah, it was a very interesting time in my 20s.
That is just shocking to me that at 30 you're over the hill.
Yeah, isn't that great? Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I know there's some great musicians that are in their 60s and 70s.
At least, yeah, I saw it that way for like rock gigs. Jazz
Mhm.
stuff, a lot of the musicians are older, but a lot of
Mhm.
those gigs are a lot harder to get. So yeah,
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
kind of got edged out, and I realized I wasn't, going to be getting the same gigs anymore. So I left.
Mhm. Now software engineering, that must be a very good field,
Yeah, I
right?
mean, it could pay very well, but the flip side is there's like a lack of stability, with AI and all of this stuff coming in. A lot of companies
Mhm.
are laying off, but thank God that
Mm.
as of right now, my job is still going strong, but you never really know.
Uh-huh. Right. Are you very familiar with working with AI?
I personally try to stay away from it because I kind of feel like I don't want my natural skills to deteriorate. Like if
Yeah.
I'm letting the AI do all the coding, I'm not really
Mhm.
doing it, and my skills is gonna diminish.
Yeah. Well, I'm not a big fan of AI. They stole two of my
Wow.
books and posted
Wow.
them, and they were copyrighted. So that's pretty depressing to me. I also wonder what's going to happen to college students who, instead of studying to do a paper, that they just do it on AI.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I've
Or
heard.
even kids in grade school, middle school, just
Hmm.
printing out AI papers and the teacher doesn't even know because
Hmm.
the AI is so
Right.
sophisticated. You could tell it to write in your style and it will.
Right. Right. Well, it used to be that they could tell that you were using Wikipedia, but today, nobody can tell with AI. So I think we're going to graduate a bunch of dummies
Yeah.
that don't know what they're doing.
Right. Like
You
you
know,
mentioned,
the,
AI-based
the,
theft is huge. Like instead of them just taking your whole work and change a little word, they tell the AI, create a brand new book, write it in this style, but they're taking all of your
Or take
information and
all the ideas. Yeah, right.
repurposing it.
that's terrible. Tell me why you guys decided to do this blog.
Sure. So like 4 years ago, I was just getting started in software, and I was make it allowed me to make a living wage really quick. Because prior to that, I was working at a hotel making like $11 an hour. So as soon as I get in
Hmm.
software, my first job, I'm making 30 an hour, and then a few years later, I'm making six figures. So just
Hmm.
that progression changed my life. So, being able to help people out, teach them about software, how to get into the industry. I thought that was a
Hmm.
good idea. But
Hmm.
eventually any one subject, you kind of talk about it really quickly. After a year, you've talked about most of what you can say about it. So
Yeah.
You run
yeah,
out of something to
We run out
say?
of
exactly.
stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
Start repeating yourself. And Brian, he came
And,
about a year and
and
a half later, and that's when we started really focusing on the variety.
And we kind of ramped up
mhm.
the episodes. We do on average 3 episodes a week. and we've been doing that for about the last 2 years.
Have you met a lot of interesting
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
people?
yeah.
That's part of the great thing about doing this is that we meet such fascinating, interesting, successful people from all different walks of life, all different industries. You know, we'll have a video game programmer on, or we'll have a
Mhm,
UX, UI developer,
mhm.
or we'll have, you know, an actor, or we'll have other
Yeah,
musicians on, composers,
mhm.
really, really anything. When I
Oh,
came on,
I should get sh yeah.
I was gonna say,
Go
when
ahead.
I came on, I just told Kevin, I said, "Well, you know, I'm a musician, so why don't we book some musicians?" He said, "Okay, sure." So I just kinda, you know, took
Mhm,
over the reins. I took over the booking, and, it's just been diversified ever since.
mhm. Oh, good. You should talk to my son. My son is graduated from college with a degree in entertainment
Oh, wow.
management, and it never panned out for him. It was never anything that he could do. And little by little, he got into the food industry, and eventually he went to the CIA and became a
Wow.
chocolatier.
Oh wow.
And he learned to develop like the most incredible, I don't know if you know what bonbons are. They're handmade chocolates that have a different topping and a different center. And he does these remarkable bonbons. And people are just, it's like, I say it's like a party in your mouth.
Right.
And he's just kind of getting started. His name of his company is Otherworldly Sweets. And
Oh,
if you
wow.
get a chance, you should look online, and they are really otherworldly. They are just
And,
amazing.
your
And
son, is he also based out of Connecticut?
unfortunately for him, he's still living with us because he can't
Yeah.
afford to move
Yeah.
out.
Right, right, right.
But he's looking for space, and he wants to open a little store. But his chocolates are really otherworldly,
Mhm.
and he's supplying some very fancy restaurants with his bonbons. And when people when people see them, if you look online, you can see the
Yeah.
pictures.
Seen them.
They are so
Yeah.
beautiful. You don't even want to eat them.
It's
They're like
art.
little art. Yeah, when he's an
Oh
artist, and
wow.
Hmm.
you know, I
Nice.
wish he was more like you guys, software or drums or something that was way more marketable and easy. But he really loves his art. I tell him, why don't you just repeat some of the flavors that you did that were really good? And he
Right.
said because he wants to create
Yeah.
new things all the
That's the
time.
downside of being an artist. You don't want to turn it into a job.
You
I
don't wanna
know,
be,
but
boxed
that's
in. You don't wanna be boxed in.
but a lot of artists are poor.
Yes.
So interestingly enough, our last guest was an artist, and she found a way to make a living
Oh,
like through
yeah.
Instagram selling her paintings, and like
Through
one painting was worth
Instagram.
like
Really.
3,000,
Yeah,
$4,000. So
3, 4, $5,000 for one of her originals. It's pretty.
Wow, good
She
for
said people
her.
pay it. People
Well,
pay
he's
it.
well, people are buying his bonbons, but it is a luxury item, and it's not something that you might buy every day. But people that buy them, he has some customers that just keep
yeah.
calling him because they are so delicious. They're, you know, I it's for me, it's a celebration when I eat one because it's so special,
Yeah, I've seen
you
it. They
know.
look amazing. I think if he's able to get him in front of like a big social media influencer, then you know
Mhm.
his business probably flow.
Well, do you know any big social influencers?
We're not quite there yet.
We're not quite there yet ourselves, but we're working on
But if he wants to send us
Well,
something to ever eat on the show, we'll do it.
it.
okay, well, you would have fun having him. He's quite
Yeah.
interesting. He does research all over the world. There's a chocolatier in
Mm,
Russia who's probably one of the best chocolatiers in the world. And my son's learned a little Russian so that they could
Wow.
communicate. And he's learned some techniques from this guy in Russia. He's actually very interesting and very committed to
Now
what
with
he does.
chocolate, I would imagine I've been to Europe once, and I just remember some of the best
Mm.
chocolate was either in Germany or Switzerland. Has
Mhm.
he studied
He
it
gets his
all with
choc
Switzerland or, not so much?
Oh, he has studied everything. We just imported a box of chocolate. It ended up costing us a couple hundred
Wow.
dollars to import it, but, I think his chocolates are, in some ways, a lot more interesting and better. I mean, there are artists around the world that are doing interesting chocolates, but n not that many that are doing
Mm.
handmade and with beautiful techniques and beautiful design,
Yeah.
so,
Love to have them
um
on.
For sure.
okay,
Yeah.
well, yeah, I can give you his, name and you can talk to him. He's actually fascinating. I listen to him and I can't believe how much he knows about chocolate and he knows about ingredients. He just came back from China, with his girlfriend, and he came back and told me about all these fruits, and he's like familiar with fruits from around the world that he was able to test to eat in China. And
Wow.
it's really fascinating to me that he had this knowledge.
So, like, if you could kind of
Yeah.
describe the difference between, let's just say, some low grade chocolate you get in the grocery store versus what your son is making, like just in maybe in terms of taste, texture, like how would you make that
Oh,
differentiation?
you know what? I used to like M&Ms until my son started giving me really fine chocolate. And you once you have really, really
Can't
fine
go back.
chocolate, if you love chocolate, you
Yeah.
can't go
Yeah, you
back.
can't go
You're
back.
like
I love,
addicted.
I love the Swiss chocolate, Lindt, you know that brand?
Hmm.
Mm.
I
Hmm.
get
Yeah,
the
sure.
90% dark. That, just
Hmm.
one
Yeah,
square of that does it for me.
right. Well, if you had one of these, you would know the difference. It's again, like you get really spoiled. And so there are people that buy his a six, a four and eight box of chocolates and they just keep coming back and ordering. He has some very loyal
That's
customers
awesome.
because once they taste them. He also goes out and does some trade shows, and when he gives out samples, people are like, "Oh my God!" Even an event that's not like high end, people will splurge for a really wonderful box of chocolate. It's like splurging for a really great bottle of wine. You're not going to do it all the time, but you
Every
can
now and then,
appreciate it.
yeah.
Yeah. I think people are really looking
Right.
for something unique that still has that human touch. Like it's not just
Mhm.
made in a factory by a machine, like something
Right.
artisan. I think people are open to paying
Right.
more for that.
And beautiful,
Mhm.
and beautiful, and if you're having company over or you wanna give somebody a very good gift, like, I used to bring people a bottle of wine when I went to their house, but now I would bring them a box of chocolate and they would be beyond thrilled.
Mother's Day is coming up, so
So I have a okay, well, tell your girlfriend or your friend or whatever, that's what you want for your birthday. I have a question. Why are you guys not watching the draft tonight? Are you not into
oh, I didn't
football?
I didn't even know the football draft was on tonight, but the Cowboys, they've been losing so long that, I
Yeah,
kinda
like for
grown
me,
apathetic.
I grew up watching the Jets, and
Uh-huh.
if you know anything about football, the Jets have, missed a lot of opportunities over the years. They came close with Vinny Testaverde like, 20, 30 years ago, but it's a
Mhm.
tough team to still watch. And I kind of fell out of watching it when I moved out to LA because people don't really watch
Mhm.
football in LA. At least that
No?
not to my, not to my knowledge.
Oh.
Anytime I would
Mhm.
talk about football, people are like, "Oh, you're so East Coast." So
That's so funny because they have a good team
they
out
do.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. LA is a very unique place. I mean, it's kind of like a mecca
Mhm.
for artistry and musicianship.
Mhm.
And I've played with incredible world class musicians based in LA or Orange
Mhm.
County. And coming back here to Long Island, I play with some pretty cool people, but it's nothing like the caliber of LA.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I went to the Super Bowl once in LA, and my husband was a little bit mortified because I was more interested in the halftime show. Neil Diamond was
Oh, wow.
singing. than the football game. Yeah. But my husband was begging me to watch the draft with him, which doesn't interest me so much, but I try to be a good wife.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me. I
Yeah.
had no idea that was today.
Yeah. So and I think that the Jets and the Giants are like 4 and 5 at the
Oh
bottom
yeah,
of
top
the
pick.
so they're going to get early picks. So they might have already picked some already, but
Okay.
I know it's a big
Yeah,
deal.
I'll check that out after this. After the podcast goes off.
Okay. Are we almost out of
We
time?
still got some time. We got like 15 minutes. So prior to us going live, you spoke about your marketing career a little bit. Do you want to dive into that a little bit?
Mhm. Yeah, well, I think that the interesting thing that I talk about sometimes with students is that, people think that when they graduate from school, they have to do a particular thing that they studied. And I'm a perfect example that that doesn't have to
Right.
be. I graduated with a degree in elementary
Mm,
education. And when I graduated, I decided I didn't really want to be an elementary school teacher. So I went to graduate school to become a speech pathologist. And I worked during the day in the fashion industry because I needed to support myself while I was in school. And I started doing so well in the fashion industry. I worked for Calvin Klein and Liz Claiborne and a beautiful leather company. And I was doing so well that while I was still working there, I graduated from graduate school, couldn't get a job in that field, and I wasn't going to give up a very
mm,
well-paying job to work for a very actually non-existent job or work for free as a speech therapist. So I did very, very well in the fashion industry, and I worked there for several years. And then I stopped to build my house for my family in Greenwich. And when I got finished, I decided I was going to write a book to tell other people how they could build a house better and more efficiently. And so I wrote my first book. I actually was friendly with a guy who was the parent of one of my children's schoolmates, and Robert Louis Stevenson III. And I asked him if he would ghostwrite my book because I didn't have any experience
Oh, wow.
writing. And he said, "Well, write a proposal." And he had written 2 books, and I wrote a proposal for him, and he said, "You know what? You don't need me. You can write this book." So I wrote my first book and got it published, and I thought I was gonna go back to the fashion industry, but my kids were very little, so I decided I would do another book. And every time I wrote another book, I thought this was gonna be
It's gonna be
the
the last
last
one.
book.
Yeah.
Right, and now I've written 12, and now I'm taking a little sabbatical to work with my son, and I also teach, which I love, it's one of my passions. I teach English as a second language
Uh,
at the high school for
nice.
people, for adults, and who are just trying to adapt to this country, and they're just the most delightful people and really a fun thing. So, but I've had so many different careers, and I think it's a good indication that you don't have to have one career in your life. You don't have to graduate with one
Yeah.
thing. If that doesn't work out, you can do something else,
Yeah, like for
you know?
me, I worked in sales for years. I used to work in life insurance, health insurance. I mean, it's about one of the most boring things you can do, but I did it
Uh-huh.
for a while, and I think the sales skills and the marketing skills I learned from running my own business, I have my own brokerage.
Mhm.
That's really kind of overflowed into what I do now with the booking for the podcast, and
Mhm.
because really booking, there's definitely a sales element in there. You have to
Mhm.
I have to sell the podcast. Why would anyone want to come on the podcast? I have to sell us.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Well, I used to do a lot more of this. I haven't because my book came out a little while ago and I just got tired of doing it. But I think it's always interesting to speak to other people and find out what they're doing and how they're doing it and how they're managing to. I I think people are just in general very fascinating. I
Mhm.
think everybody's got a story, you know, and
Exactly.
I really enjoy. I've always enjoyed speaking to the architects, the people that are living in these houses. And it's interesting, people always ask me how much the houses cost. And the last thing that somebody would ever tell you is how much their house costs. People would rather tell you that they're having marital problems or that they're pregnant than that they how much their house costs. So
Well, that's
I've met some really interesting people doing that. But I think everybody is interesting and you just never know, you know, when you talk to people what you're going to find out.
I think to your point, it's really interesting how America, we kind of define ourselves by a career, and often what we're pushed towards very young in life, we think that we need to stick with that.
Mhm.
Like me, I got my degree. Initially, I wanted to be an artist. Then I actually got my degree in accounting. I hated accounting
Mhm.
and ended up in software. So, like you, I kind
Mhm.
of just pivoted over time, and
Mhm.
you don't have to stay in those choices you made earlier. If you need to
Right.
move,
Right.
pivot.
Right.
It's
Yep.
possible. Yeah, and like, the artist we just had on, she had, a different career for a while, and then just, she kinda pushed herself and said, "Okay, I'm gonna make this work," kinda, burn the boats and just,
Mhm.
go all in, and now, like we said, she's got paintings for 3,000, $5,000 on her website, and she's selling them to people, and it's incredible. It just goes to show, if someone has enough willpower, consistency, go get them attitude,
Mhm.
or just plain hustle. I think
Mhm.
you can't really. That's one thing I've learned in life. You really can't teach hustle. Either someone
Mhm.
has that entrepreneurial energy in them to go, go,
Uh-huh.
go, or you're just kind of on the sidelines, like, yeah, that's a bit too much work. I'm just going to go work for someone else and not really worry about this.
Right. Right. Who do you think the people are that listen to your podcast?
I think, well, us looking at the statistics, I believe initially, primarily technologists, but I think over time it's going to spread as we continue to do more and more shows on a diversity of subjects.
Mhm. And do you ever try to get some advertisers to support your blog?
Yeah, we've recently started. Brian's recently been reaching out to different companies and seeing if they want to showcase their product on the show.
Mhm.
So we're kind of in that phase now.
Right.
Yeah,
Well, that's good.
I've been doing the outreach on Instagram for us, and
Mhm.
we've got some people kind of on the fence. Either they're going to send us, a hat or a watch, or whatever they make, and then we'll wear it on the show,
Uh-huh.
or we can give them, a 10-second ad at the beginning of the show, and we
Right.
just small amount of money for that. So
Right.
we're sort of, we're just getting into that next level up of getting sponsors, but
Mhm.
it's coming. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've been on several of these type of shows, and they just stop after like 15 minutes, and they have an
Yeah.
advertisement, and then they might stop in another, 15, 20 minutes, and they have another advertisement, and at least it helps to, support your efforts.
Yeah, we're gonna put a couple in, but we don't want to put so many in to where it starts getting distracting. Kind of
Hmm.
we want to do the ads tastefully,
Yeah.
Okay, good for you. That's great.
and we're
That's
kind of
really
careful about the brands we want to work with too. We don't want
Yeah. We're not just gonna, bring on, okay, sports gambling place, don't really
hmm
want to support gambling in any way.
right. Okay, that's good. You have some integrity. I like that. That's great.
100%. Yeah.
Okay.
100%.
Well, good for you. Well, you guys are really sweet, and it's really fun to talk to you. I hope you can still catch some of the draft because
Oh yeah.
apparently that's a really big deal.
Yeah, we're at the top of the hour. The hour kind of flew by. I knew we'd make
But
it.
yes, well, you guys. You guys are really sweet and very interesting in your own, and I wish
Oh,
you both
likewise.
lots of good luck, and I hope that you're able to build this. I'm going to connect you with my son, Otherworldly Sweets, and I think you'll really enjoy. He could talk to you about chocolate for hours.
I love
Oh,
chocolate. Yeah.
He knows more about chocolate than anybody on this earth, so
We
I
love
think
that. Yeah.
it'll be fun for you, and hopefully some of your listeners will think about looking into accessory dwelling units. And my book was ADUs, the perfect housing solution, and in reality, it is a perfect house solution. It's a plus plus for the people that own it and the people also that can live there.
Yeah, definitely more states need to
but
get
before
on board with it.
Yep. Yep. And more people have to be aware.
Right.
It's people just don't know. And if they don't know, they're not going to do it. You know.
exactly. Before we get out of here, did you want to leave our audience with any closing thoughts, and where can they find you at?
They can find me on my website, which is sherikoones.com, SHERIKOONES.com. And I have lots of information about my books, and there's a lot on Amazon about each book. And sometimes they could even see a few pages of the books to see what they're about. And they should also check out Otherworldly Sweets, which is something that I'm working on right now, which I absolutely love. So, and that's just a website, Otherworldly Sweets. So, thank you so much for inviting me, and it was really delightful to meet both of you. I appreciate
Absolute pleasure. Anytime you want to come back, let us know and we'll bring you
it.
back.
Okay. You never know.
Yeah.
Okay. And I wish you guys lots of luck, and I hope you get lots of sponsors and become filthy rich.
We
I mean, it's
appreciate
it's
you.
not it's not, the top thing that has to happen, but if the money
Right.
wants to roll in, I'm not gonna, put my hands
Right.
up.
You're not going to fight it. Okay.
I'll let
Well,
it roll in. Yeah, yeah.
I'm sure you guys are going to become you're probably both successful. You're going to become more successful.
Oh, thank
And
you.
I wish that to you.
Absolutely.
Thanks again for inviting me.
Enjoy the draft.
Yeah, you too.
Nice
Bye
You're
meeting you.
bye.
welcome. Thank everybody
Bye.
for tuning in. We'll catch y'all
Thanks,
next
guys.
time.
Okay. Bye bye.